Welcome back, guys. Super excited to share this next episode with you. In this episode today, Ryan and I discuss all things sales, communication, influence, and some really interesting personal things about him that I didn't even know myself, including his story about how he actually came up into sales, and then how you can start to benefit a lot of the systems and structures inside of whether it's your team or your startup company to really start to improve, gain more efficiency, and overall make more money. I hope you enjoy this episode. Let me know in the comments what your favorite part is. I've actually got a really interesting story to share about the start of this. That I when we
me.
Well, it's more about me, but it's like you probably it's about you. It's about you and I, but it's like the start about. We might as well just get into it. This will be it. Yeah, this is what I put as the start anyway. And it was actually so I remember when we got connected and Wade made an introduction or something
At the island.
No, this was just via the phone first.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was living in Sydney at the time, and I remember getting you on the phone, and I remember being like probably 26 or something, and I was doing this Jordan Belfort event, and I was like, just fucking the most ego-ridden dude. And I was like, yep, this is what I'm doing. I've done this. I'm paying this much money for this. And it was just like this massive, like, beat my chest, like, hero moment. And you were just like listening. And I remember like leaving the phone call and being like, fuck yeah, I'm the man. And I remember thinking like, yeah, man, this Ryan guy, like, he's really nice. Like, he's actually like, I really like this guy. And then I remember, I think Wade or...
And I hadn't said anything.
No, nothing. Nothing at all. You were just like, yeah, interesting. And you were like, man, this sounds really exciting. Congrats for what you're doing. This is really cool. And then I remember, I think it was Wade or maybe somewhere along the way, maybe it was on your LinkedIn. It was like, Shark Tank invested in this. And I was like, and you didn't say anything about it. You didn't say anything about yourself. You was like, just propping me up and letting me have this like moment where I felt like a rock star. And I was like, I remember coming out of that conversation being like, number one, like, so much respect for you, because being like, just having that kind of like EQ for you to listen into what I was, saying, let me kind of like have that moment, not need to like jump in and barrage me with like, this is what I've done and I've been on Shark Tank. And I remember being like, just that level of like emotional intelligence that you had. I was like, so much respect, but also just like, man, probably don't need to brag as much about what I do.
Did you? You didn't know in the moment though?
Not at all.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I think Wade was just like, oh, Ryan has like a sales, training company, and he's done some events and stuff like that. And then I think there was a little bit of a connection with very little context, and whether there was context that I just didn't listen to, because I had so much stuff going on with the with the event and stuff. But I was just like, I remember having that conversation, coming at him and just being like, yeah, you fucked up on that. Like, kind of just, I wouldn't say fucked up, but just like, it was interesting. But I had a lot of respect for you in that, and I think it made me think very highly of your sales ability, your influence, your reading into like human beings.
Appreciate that.
I think, yeah.
So I think there's a lot of power in the real kind of subtle building of value in yourself, and we live in such a fortunate age with technology and social media that it's all out there anyway. You're gonna find out eventually, and it's way more powerful if you find out after we've spoken. And I didn't say anything.
True.
It hits hard. It's like, well, why? It's almost like when you don't need to sell a product, you don't over pitch it, you don't over talk it, because you're so confident in its value anyway. They'll find out. They'll find out. So all I have to do is just allow you to feel understood and feel heard. That's enough to connect us, and then you'll go off and you'll find out everything else. And then you're like, why didn't he talk about that? If I was him, I would tell everybody about that.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the 1% difference, right?
Do you think that's always like the way to play it? Like, do you think there's other times where you need to be a little bit more lead with like what you do, get attention?
Yeah, I think if like there's other scenarios where I can see that people are massively talking down to me, and I get this a lot from a physical sense, because I'm not a tall bloke, I'm not a big bloke. I know if you listen to this on podcast, I'm 6'3".
It sounds massive.
Massive. But a lot of people they in networking events, in social events, they come in and they give it the big one. I've done this, I've done that, and I'm like, brilliant, yeah, fantastic. Can I ask you? And I'll just come in. I have a very specific transition to build value in myself,
right?
And it's usually somewhere along the lines of, can I ask you something, Sasha? Because obviously you're super experienced as well. I brought on board a few investors a few years ago, and one of the lessons I got from them, which I had no idea about, so that's a vulnerability statement.
Sure.
So I go, investors.
Yeah.
One of the lessons I got, because I had no idea about, which then allows you to then elevate yourself. And then I'll just ask you a question about some lessons that you've had. Like, have you ever learned that in your time? And I'll put it all back on you again.
Yeah.
And then usually they'll go, so you got investors.
Who are they?
And then it's them coming to me. So I have permission to share as opposed to interruption sharing. So yeah, there's a time and a place, but there's an elegance in how you do it.
Who's Ryan? Let's go into that a little bit. Give me a bit of a backstory.
That's
Who is this
an
guy?
opening question. If I'm honest, I'm still trying to figure it out. Like I've been through a few evolutions. I'm 42 years old. I always wanted to be a footballer, like every good Englishman. Yeah, that was literally my life. And
the soccer.
Football, proper, the round ball.
Round ball.
And I'm living vicariously through my boys now. Maverick is absolutely obsessed with it. That means that the brainwashing is working. So I played football at every level up until when I was 2018 when Maverick was born.
Right.
I played amateur / semi-pro back in the UK. I did a personal training degree back in the UK. Then I became an engineer for 8 years. I was a very good engineer.
Yeah.
So I've got great attention to detail, very methodical in what I do, very process orientated. So engineering was perfect, but I just felt unfulfilled. I didn't know what else was out there for me, but I just had that little itch that I'm like, there's got to be something else. And I do often say, and I don't know how to measure this, I do say I feel real fortunate that I feel like I found my purpose. Like and what I mean by that is I love what I do daily. I had an amazing opportunity earlier on in the year, as you know, to go to Necker Island. And on that island, there were 40 people from all around the world. 22 of them were post-exit. And they've got hundreds of millions, if not billions, banked. Right? So they've done it. They've done their time. One lady, 3 years in, exited in 3 years for 25 million euros.
Jeez.
Others, 30, 40 years deep. So they're half of their life is dedicated to this business, and they've got their money, they got their exit, and they're not fulfilled. And they would say,
was it the majority of them had that same theme?
Yeah.
Would you say like most people have got this stack of cash and they're just like
the majority of the people that had exited?
Yeah.
And it was a good mix, because what it allowed was the other people that were on the way up to go, well, hold on a second.
That's where you want to get to.
Do I? Do it? Is the end goal financial, or is it daily fulfillment that I'm chasing? Because I don't have an exit plan, which baffles a lot of people. I'm like, why would I want to exit something I love every single day?
Do you think it's just because they don't like what they do and they're purely just doing it like for this objective purpose to make money?
Yeah, I put them in the bucket of real entrepreneurs. And a real entrepreneur will have an idea to solve a problem, and then that idea grows and they can scale it, and they're innovative and they forward thinking, but then they get so far into it that that's their business.
Right.
So I don't think they ever started the business with love. They started the business because it was I can fix a problem. Doesn't mean that's the problem they love. And I'm not saying that you should run a business that you love every day, but the difference for me is if I can make a decent income and love every single day of what I do, then I'm very, very fortunate. Do I still want to make lots of money? Yes. Have I had lots of money and no money and know which one I prefer? Most common question. Yeah, of course. Yeah. But yeah, so I do feel like I found my purpose, because I get to genuinely see results for people every single day. These guys are chasing something that might be 20 years away, and all of a sudden they got there and it was like, now what? And that was the question on the island. It was like, now what? I'm not looking for a now what. I've got my now what. This is it. I was engineering for 8 years. This is way better than changing a gearbox at 2 o'clock in the morning.
So what do you do now?
What do I do?
We stopped at engineering. And
yeah.
then Necker Island.
So yeah, I know. So now I'm fortunate to be a sales coach in layman's terms. So what does that mean? We work with business owners, entrepreneurs, and sales professionals, and help them increase their revenue through what we call SWISH, which stands for Selling with Integrity and Selling Honestly. So it's a human behavior based sales coaching organization, and that crosses into so many facets of transformation.
I like it because at the event recently, I didn't really know. We came along, my wife and I, Naira, to the event, and I hadn't been exposed to too much of your training. And I think it was very interesting because, and I think you mentioned this in terms of like your audience or your demographic is pretty wide in the sense that there's a smaller proportion of actual salespeople, and then there's business owners and all these other people. And I think the way that you train and teach people to actually interact as a human to another human is really what it's about, from what I understand it so far. And obviously using it, to get an outcome as far as increase revenue and do all that stuff is like, it comes naturally almost.
It's a natural byproduct of being better with other humans. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to build relationships. We're trying to maintain relationships. That's a sales strategy in a way. Like we spoke about Jordan Belfort just before. Like, he's a great salesman. He wouldn't have gone to jail if it didn't work.
Correct.
What he did worked. He just used it for the wrong reasons. And I don't think all of his stuff works in the modern day era. I don't think it works in Australia at all. But sales is a process and sales is a skill. And if you hate the word sales, just replace it with the word communication. And when you get that right, you will open up so many doors. If you'd have said to me 15 years ago when I arrived here as a backpacker that I'd be sitting here right now and be able to talk about spending 5 days on Necker Island with Sir Richard Branson or emceeing for David Goggins, I'd be like, no way. Yeah. What do I put it down to? My ability to speak to humans.
So for the people listening right now and they're like, I'm not in a sales-related industry niche, I don't need to know that skill. How do you try and like open that door for them to be like, this is something worthwhile paying attention to?
So in the moment of that conversation, I'll tell you what I literally do. I'll say, how do you mean? Because then they start selling me.
Right. So if say, for example, I was saying to you right now, look, Ryan, I don't really, do too much selling in my environment, in my business. I probably don't really need to learn sales skills.
Okay. How do you mean?
Yeah. Well, I guess I don't really do too much communication with people. I don't need to collect any, payments from people. I don't really sell people actively. I have a team that does that. It's not really me.
Yeah. Oh, you got a team?
Yeah, I have a team.
Yeah. How long you had a team for?
About 4 years now.
Yeah. 40 years.
4 years. 4 years.
Yeah. Okay. And do they all just kind of listen to you? They do as they're told, and everything's kind of flows nicely.
Sometimes.
Yeah, you can see where this is going, right? So then I'll just get them to. I try to take them into their world as quickly as possible. Not into my world. I'm going to go back into their world because I believe something that I see. I don't believe something that I hear. So if I can talk to you about something that happens to you every single day, a colleague not listening to you, maybe a customer not paying on time, maybe sales taking too long, maybe a supplier always has delays. Right. I can help you see that communication aspects might help you within your day-to-day business. And when they have that penny drop, they're like, okay, well, I'm not in a transactional role, but I can definitely have a form of influence or inspiration in my business. So if every meeting that you had, I might go into like morning huddles or something, and they go, oh yeah, we have meetings every day. They go for half an hour, 45 minutes. Okay. If we could condense them down to 20 minutes instead of half an hour, and we were to give you 10 minutes back every single day, what would you do with that? Oh, I'd probably do this. That might be a revenue generating task. Right. So there might be efficiencies with learning to communicate better as well. And they just don't see it because we associate the word sales with, I've got a product, do you want to buy it? Yeah. And that's why we've kind of veered from, yes, it is sales, but it's just communication. How to maximize an interaction with another human being. Getting an upgrade at a hotel. Getting an upgrade at an airport because you had an ability to ask somebody in the right tone at the right time, how's your day going? Like, do you know what I mean? I'll always get an upgrade somewhere.
Really?
Because I'll ask the question.
And how did you learn all of this? Because I feel like you're very, very, very good at it. Was it always that way? Like, no. I remember like engineering versus sales is quite a different, kind of ballpark.
It doesn't make sense until I realized that sales was a process, and then it makes total sense. Now I'm like, give me an engineer. Give me somebody that's already process orientated, because you'll be able to follow the bouncing ball. The danger, I'll answer your question in a second, but the danger with just having a process is that you plug people into a process and you strip them of personality. That's why I'm not a big fan of scripting. I'm a big fan of frameworks. So when I first arrived here in 2010, I was put into an environment that didn't allow me to do that. It was just read this script verbatim in a call center, 300 dials a day, and I had 90 seconds to find out if a random stranger had $15,000 to $25,000 liquid. Abuse after you don't call it? Yeah, of course you have. Yeah. So just abuse after abuse, and eventually that started to eat away at me. I got to the stage where I was 21st out of 21 people in the call center, and I actually threw the towel in. I was like, I'm done. I got 31 cents left. I was sleeping on a friend's bathroom floor at the time. And my old boss, Jack, actually, the day I quit was the day, you could say the day I quit was the day this business started. What I mean by that was my life changed based on one conversation. So I said to Jack, mate, I'm not cut out for sales. I'm not an extrovert. I don't have the gift of the gab. I'm crap at sales. There's 21 people in here. I'm literally the worst one in here. I'm going to go back to the UK. And he just looked me dead in the eyes and said, I'm not letting you quit because you haven't even tried. And looking back, and I didn't realize it in the moment, but looking back, that one conversation has made me so passionate about words and communication. Because you could just meet one person, you could listen to one podcast, watch one video, and hear one sentence that changes the whole trajectory of your life.
So true.
And that conversation with Jack was it, because he was like, give me 60 days. Let me prove to you that this is not something you're born with. This is a learned skill. And he just gave me resources, like free resources: Jim Rohn, Tom Hopkins, Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, Straight Line with Jordan.
Sure.
And all of a sudden I was like, there's patterns. Everybody's teaching the same stuff.
Yep.
Like they are. Like me and I had Jeremy Minor come over and spoke at our event, Daniel G.
Yeah.
Maybe Daniel G and I are not as alike, but Jeremy and I are very, very similar. We've both done Michael Oliver back in the day. Yep. Everyone's teaching the same stuff. There's a rhythm here. And the ones that really took it to the next level are the ones that stopped studying selling and started studying humans. And I realized very quickly this wasn't about making sales. This was about connecting with another human being. So then I went down human emotional intelligence rabbit holes, NLP, behavioral science, and that's when it started to click. So when I factored that in and started creating processes, I'm like, I can't be the only introvert here that struggles to speak to humans in a sales world or a business world. And that's when the business was created in 2014.
Nice. Yeah, wow. I didn't know some of the details of the story. Especially, I mean, I think in terms of like you starting in that cold calling situation. And what about from you, like being a salesperson and then transitioning to be like an entrepreneur? Was there some significant kind of skill gaps, or how was that process? Because that's like, I'm doing a specific role over and over and over again to like running a company.
Yeah, I think I've gone through in the E-Myth. I've gone through all three of the. You got the leader, the manager, technician.
Yeah.
The three.
Yeah.
I've gone through all of those. And it's interesting. I don't feel like I'm a natural entrepreneur, a natural business owner. I don't know if that does exist or not. I can look at some people. I think you are definitely more orientated towards running your own business than I am. I was not a good business owner. I was very fortunate that Jack, my old sales manager, we broke away. He's an entrepreneur. Like he was selling, let's say, stuff at school when he was younger. Let's say lollies. Let's say lollies.
Candy.
So I say he naturally had an ability to go, well, if I buy these and I sell this at this, I'm going to make money. Where I was never exposed to that world. Mum worked in she did some admin, then she was a cleaner, and my dad worked in a factory. Right. So no one ever spoke about running a business. That was it's not like they even said it was risky. It just was never spoken about. Yeah. So when Jack and I had a conversation about starting Swish back in 2014, I felt safe because I'm like, well, this guy knows what he's doing.
Right.
All I have to do is keep being the worker bee. And I'm a good worker. Like I reckon I'm a good worker. I'll be the first in, last out. I'll make more dials than anybody else. Yeah. I won't give you any shit back. I'll just, I'm a yes man. Like, and I know that, and I've had to fight that over the years. So I'm like, oh, I can just kind of hang off this guy's coattails. Right. He knows how to run businesses. And I'll just sit in the background. I don't have to be on camera. I don't have to be on stage. This guy does all of that. Right. Jack was like full extrovert. And then as the business grew and I started coaching, I actually started to enjoy the coaching aspect to it. Like when I remember, I think it was like 2017. We brought a girl called Courtney in. I don't know if you remember Courtney. She was like our creative director, but in marketing. And she started talking about people don't buy brands, they buy people. And Ryan, you and Jack need to build personal brands. At the time, all my social channels were private. Right. There's no videos of me on YouTube. Like you can go Swish from 2014 to 2017. There's nothing. I don't exist. I'm just behind the scenes building stuff. Yep. And so Jack and I agreed we were going to start putting stuff out there on social media. And the first video I put out, I remember I was up in Brisbane. We had the real estate business at the same time.
Yep.
And I had an appointment up there, and I had an hour to kill. And I was walking through a park, and I made this crappy video on my phone. It took me I sat in I remember sitting in the car for like half an hour sweating, just thinking I'm going to put this video up. Like, so scared about what people were going to say. And I know what day it was. It was a Tuesday, because I had football training that night. So I put this video up, and it was just about what I call my 60-second legacy, which is basically what people say about you within 60 seconds of meeting you. That's your legacy. And I put it up. Anyway, I didn't think anything of it. Got to football training that night, and a couple of the football lads were like, here comes Tucky, get your live ready. And I was like, fuck, I got abuse straight away from my mates. Like banter abuse, that's how we call it.
Cop it, yeah.
And I'm like, this is why I don't do it. And I got really annoyed. Anyway, I spoke to Courtney next day, and she was like, please don't take it down. I was freaking out. Anyway, I was sitting there, no comments, no likes, nothing on it. And then I got a message from this random guy I'd never met before, on Messenger. And he said, hey mate, saw your video yesterday, thanks so much for sharing. That's exactly what I needed. I was about to quit my job. I didn't, and I made a sale in the afternoon. Not even in our training, just total stranger. And I got like a hit. I'm like, that's nice. I like that. I was like, so you don't, and he hadn't commented on the video, he hadn't liked it, he just sent me a personal message. And looking back, it's that adage of like, you don't know who's watching. And then about a month later, I'd kept putting a few little videos up, and I remember having a conversation with Jack and Courtney, and Jack had said, "Look, I'm not doing this anymore. It's not working."
You wanted to pull the pin.
Yeah, we're not putting videos out there. It's not working.
Right.
And I remember thinking, well, what's the metric for working? Is it? And it was revenue. Like, are we making sales? And we weren't. There was nobody going, I watched this video, so I want to buy your training. But for me, it was different. I had this sort of shift of like, this is actually impactful. This is I'm finally hitting the people that I wanted to hit with the business, which was the introverts, the people that are too scared to comment or like on a post. I'm like, well, if I keep doing this and compound, I can impact more people. So Jack actually stopped putting stuff out on social media. He doesn't do anything on socials at all anymore, or he hasn't done in recent history. And I carried on, and that's obviously grown. I'm now the one that gets the opportunity to speak on stage. 80-something%, 82% of our leads will come through my LinkedIn specifically, our B2B leads. So like the social credibility you get, it's not like I don't do it for sales, but I do it for validation and credibility. That let me really realize what impact we can have. And I'm like, I have to push this business. I now have a responsibility to be the entrepreneur, to be the business owner. And once I accepted that and made the decision that I'm going all in, all of a sudden I started to think like a business owner, and not a worker bee.
It's funny. Patrick said something last week, I think it was, or the week before. We had our
Paddy,
the guy. We had our like monthly mastermind call, and he went through like he was workshopping with this one guy who I think he's raising like a couple of $100 million, like crazy entrepreneur doing some insane things. And he was talking about some competitors in the space that are like also raising money, and Patrick just really like locked into this thing where he's like I behave and I think and I act like everyone's watching me. Everyone, like all fucking eyes are on me all the time. My team, my clients, the public, everyone is watching me. And you're like saying this, and it's like people are watching you even if you don't know that they're watching you, and even if they don't comment, and even if they don't like, even if they don't engage, they're still seeing what you're doing. I had the podcast last week with Adam Hudson, and 5, 6, 7 clients have signed in the last like 7 days, being like, I saw that. And I'm like, what? Like, you know what I mean? One little conversation, one thing here, and it's like, if that's all it needed, you know what I mean? It's so powerful.
That behind the scenes, that dose of reality. I look at it, I've employed some people, I won't name names, I've employed some people that have worked for other people in our industry, so let's say in the coaching space, right? And what you see and you hear from them on stage isn't congruent to the way that they act whilst they're running their teams.
Sure.
That would devastate me if my team were to leave and say Ryan is not the person behind the scenes that he is on stage. So that doesn't mean that I have to put on a show all the time. I'm just going to be me all the time. Like you've seen me at an event now. Wait till the boot camp. Like I'm close to the edge. I'm I'm not overly politically correct. I probably ruffle a few feathers. I'm not.
Which is interesting because I would like, I didn't expect that. Like when you were, I was like, whoa, I'm like, this is fucking cool. You know what I mean? Because like you seem very polished and put together, and you're up on stage and you're like more ruffling the feathers, talking about this thing, talking about that thing. I'm like, I fucking love this opinionated
do you know what though, Sash? Right? Like a few years ago, I got a PR lady to come and watch me. Public relations. I wanted to just with the way the world is, shall we say? Probably gonna do it right now.
That's fine.
And I was like, I'm gonna say some stuff here. I'm gonna offend some people, and I don't want to. Like, I don't want to upset people.
Yeah.
But someone's always gonna get upset. So I said, can you come and watch a couple of my gigs? She came to like corporate events that I did. She came to one of the boot camps, and at the end of it, she gave me this big list. I have to dig it out somewhere because it's painstaking to read through of the things that I can't say anymore.
Oh wow!
Like a big old list. And I looked at it and I was like, okay, all right. Well, I'm not bothered about being overly polished, but I am a people pleaser, and I really don't want to upset people. I want to niggle you enough to change and to act, but I'm not purposely trying to upset or offend anybody. And so I took that on board, and probably for about 18 months after that, I didn't enjoy delivering.
You withdrew all those points that she said.
It stripped me completely of who I am.
Wow.
I'm a sarcastic Englishman. Like that's all I've got is sarcasm. I've got an ability to make sarcastic. I can create acronyms galore.
Yes.
So
you're very good at
you strip that away from me, and people noticed it as well. Like I lost the fun edge to our events. Like I know you sound polished. Most of it's not scripted. Like yes, of course I've got my the content, and when I'm coaching a piece, there's metaphors and analogies and stories that will come with that, and that's all. Yes, it's polished, but I'm like people have often said it's like a comedy show. Like I'll use the crowd. One of the bits I've had this advice from 2 public speaking coaches: don't interact with the crowd as much because you leave yourself susceptible to variables.
Right, yeah.
And like anybody could throw anything at you, and I'm like, I feel that's my genius.
You play from that.
Yeah, I feel because it's real, right? Like you want to give me some abuse. It's like I'm always asking for a heckler. I mean, we don't. It's a different environment, but it stripped me of who I was. So then I became inauthentic, and I'm like, so am I going to live my life obsessed with not upsetting 1 or 2 people? Yeah. To then upset myself for the rest of my life and not enjoy what I do. I found my purpose, and now I've diluted it. So yeah.
What's your perspective on people that live that exact way? Like because what you're saying is essentially like you were just like abdicating who you were for pleasing other people.
Yeah,
and I feel like that's like everyone
draining.
Does that to some capacity.
Yeah, it's super draining. I'll speak about Kerwin Ray, bless him. I've had one conversation with Kerwin in the past, and I asked, I think I might have spoke about this at the conference. I asked him why he's so aggressive. Did I talk about that? And I was like, you seem to be getting more aggressive on stage. Yeah. He's like, Ryan, I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm angry at people because he knew what he could do for people, and he knew the transformation he could create. Yeah. And people were not acting. Yeah. So he was so towards the end, I'd say he was super authentically himself. He was just wanting to change people so much. But I don't know, maybe you live so long not being authentic yourself, and then you fall out of love with whatever you were doing in the first place. And then you go and sell your business for 50 million, and all of a sudden you're not happy.
True. You don't even know who you are anymore.
Yeah, you lose yourself.
With the found your purpose piece, did you like when you started doing the sales coaching, sales training, was that like, this is the thing? Like, did you know that like, I found my purpose, then I built it, if that makes sense? Or was it just like, I'm just like stumbling along this thing,
yeah,
I'm really enjoying this, you know?
Yeah, I'm stumbling big time. Yeah, so the coaching piece. So if we go back to the call center, I was the top salesperson. I was smashing everybody, and so then I got like a pod. So we had 3, then you had 5, and then Jack actually retired. So then I was retired like 23 or 24. I was promoted to sales manager. So now I'm running a team, and what I realized was there was something about watching other people grow and watching other people even ring the bell. Something about somebody else ringing the bell, not me ringing the bell, that I trained, especially if they were an introvert and I saw tendencies of me. And I'm like, you nearly quit 3 weeks ago or 3 months ago, and now you've just made 10 grand in a week. Like watching somebody else change and the ripple effect, like I started to love that.
Right.
But then when I started the business with Jack, I took a bit of a back seat again because I was the builder.
Got it.
Jack was the face.
Got it.
You coach, you deliver. And it was only because we got too busy that he's like, you're gonna have to pick up some of this coaching, bro. Like, I can't do it all.
Right.
And I'm like,
so he was doing all the coaching.
pretty much all
He
of
was
it.
building all the
Yeah,
stuff.
he'd do even the boot camp that we started in 2015.
Wow.
He did all of it. Like I literally in 50 Cavill Avenue, I'd sit in a side office just pretending I knew how to use a computer, which I bought to start the business. I remember the first sale we made, Henrik Vetka, 1295 on a Saturday morning, Danish guy. He paid to keep the doors open, and he goes, "Will you like send me a tax receipt or something?" I was like, "Absolutely, no problem at all. Speak to you later."
I'm about to do that right
And
now.
then I'm like, made the sale, open doors, like, how do we send a tax receipt? And Jack's like, Google it. I'm like, how do we Google things? So it happened day to day, month to month. But I tell you what it did do though. It took me a long time to want to be on camera and want to be on stage of seeing results for people. Like I can't sell something unless I've seen results of it. Like I need to know that this is going to work for people.
Right.
And that included me. Like I'm not going to book you in for coaching with me if I don't think I can help you.
Actually do something.
And I'd actually always, Jack doesn't know this, I purposely would book my one-on-one coaching. So we used to do one-on-one coaching with individual sales reps, like $50 an hour.
Did you?
They could book 1 hour initially as well. Then eventually you got to book 5, then it was 10. So it was like $500 you get 10 hours training. We don't do that anymore, just for the record.
The link is actually below this.
Yeah. I used to purposely book the sessions after hours and make them come after hours. So
this is in person.
It was always in person as well.
This is in person.
They come to the office. And I'd do it when Jack had left the office because I was embarrassed.
You didn't want him to.
I didn't feel like I should be coaching. Yeah, I felt like a fraud. I was like, well, who am I to coach? Even though I had all these great sales results, I'm now running a sales company, but I'm like, I'm not delivering the boot camp. Jack's going out delivering the corporate training. I shouldn't be doing this. So like one at a time of training, I've got Tom, I've got Sarah, I've got Mikey. I'm training these people one-on-one, and I'm like, these guys are getting good results. Hey. And then I started to so Jack's very good at like freestyling and delivering on the spot. Like you put him on a stage, no whiteboard, no pens, good to go. He could speak for 24 hours straight. What I'd started to create was a curriculum inadvertently, and I've gone, all right, Sasha, so we just finished our training session. What were your 3 takeaways? Oh, I loved this, and this. Have you got any resources on that? I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'll send it over to you. Go and make a resource. So after every session, I was starting to bank all these resources, and then I started to create acronyms, and all of a sudden I was like, I think I've got content now for me. And then I'm like, oh, I think I'm ready. And luckily, as we led all the way to 2020 when Jack exited, it was seamless then.
The content was seamless. You'd built it all.
The content was proven. I was delivering it for a couple of years as well. Right. The only challenge we had when Jack exited was like the corporates, like if they were booked in with Jack initially, it's like, oh, well, this is change. Sure. And then the ones that were booked in with me, they were fine. So. And
when did for you, when did the whole like I kind of feel like a fraud? When did that start to dissipate and you were like, I own this?
I own this. I reckon probably took me 2 years. Yeah, 2 years of coaching one-on-ones
and just seeing results.
5 or 6 people a week, one-on-ones, just coaching them, like 16, 17-year-olds, no experience. I'm watching them go in from scratch, like first job. I remember some people coming into it with their parents for one-on-one training, 16 years old. I remember, what's her name? There was this one girl, 16, coming after hours for training, and I remember I didn't think nothing of this. And I remember the next day, Jack's gone, you shouldn't really have 16-year-old girls in here after hours. And then she got a bus home, and I even, in the moment, I was like, oh, do I drop her out? No, like this is, but it took me a lot of those, like that proof for me to go, because I need data. I'm an engineer.
Of course.
So once I've got data, I'll sell anything. And I'll go, okay, this works. And I'll create a presentation that is compelling enough for somebody to buy something. But if I don't have the data and you're just telling me how great something is, I'm probably going to struggle.
And what about with Jack leaving? How was that transition? Because you guys would have built an interesting dynamic. Him doing some things, you doing some things, and how was that kind of? Because I went through a similar thing as well, as you know, taking on board that responsibility. Did it change a lot?
I think, and Jack and I have had this conversation. I think we probably always knew it was going to go that way eventually.
Right.
We're very different people. We had the real estate investment company from 2017 to 2020. I never loved the real estate side of things. Jack did. So I guess in the background, what I'd been doing, because I mitigate risk, was planning to run this business by myself, right? So I'm having public speaking training. I'm learning about finance. I'm learning about scale. I'm learning about stress management and leadership. So I'm doing all of this whilst I've got him as my safety net. Right. The most challenging part was it was Jan 2020 that we had the conversation. So I exited Karabut, he exited Swish. It was by April, I think the exit was done, which is exactly as COVID hit. Wow. So he'd gone, and now I'm left with this business, and then all of a sudden the world's locked down.
Majority in person, all of the training that you were doing, or you were doing?
Yeah, a huge portion of our training back then would have been like 65-70% of the corporates were in person, and it just stopped. So not only was I dealing with by the way, Jack's left, so I'll be taking over your training. Oh, and we can't do it in person. We're going to do it via Zoom. There was that. And then my team are like, are we going to survive COVID? I'm like, I don't know.
I don't have an answer for that.
I don't have an answer for it. They want you to have an answer for everything.
Yeah.
And that's probably my most common response over the last few years is, I don't know.
Yeah, well.
Just tell them, I don't know. And I remember having a chat with all three of the Sharks, but specifically Andrew. I went through my 3-day wobble. Yeah. So Jack had left. Jack hadn't really been in the office from the January to the April anyway, and then we went into lockdown. And I had a chat with Andrew, and he'd said something about communicate often and communicate well. Your team are going to be scared right now. Yeah. You might be scared, but they're scared because you pay their wages. I remember it must have been just before lockdown then, because we still could go in the office, or Queensland wasn't as bad. But so we came in the office, and I remember opening by saying, guys, just so you know, I have no idea whether we're going to survive this. That was my open. And looking back, I'm like, why did I open with that? But I followed it with, but what I can guarantee you is that I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that not one of you loses your jobs. Yeah, right. And if we go under, we're going to go under, giving it a good old fight. And it seemed to bring everyone together. Like everyone was like, okay, well, he's being honest. I'm not blagging it. I've never been through a pandemic before. Not many people had. So I think I had a great team that helped me get through that. I had, obviously the Sharks they're still involved. They're still involved today. So I had them to lean on. And I think, as cheesy as it sounds, having the right people around you to just freak out with, just have a little bit of a wobble and a cry if you need to. Not that Steve was giving me it's all right, come here. But just knowing that they're there and then watching them not freak out. Yeah. Like if you don't have the right people to see how they deal with Armageddon, then you assume that you're doing something wrong.
So true.
And I realized very quickly I wasn't doing anything wrong. It was the environment that we were in. It was the situation we were in, but I can't wallow. So I had 3 days, and then I remember Andrew saying, now what? So cool, you got all that off your chest? Now what? And I was like, I'll come back to you. And then just went away and created a bit of a plan of all the touch points, communicate well, communicate often with all of our corporates, with our team, with our suppliers, everybody. And
has it been helpful? I just could imagine. I mean, even listening to the three Sharks share on the panel at the event recently, like the wealth of knowledge that they have and the depth in different areas and like the experience and the foresight to help you make decisions. Like, how does that work? Do you lean on them a lot? Is it like at some smaller capacity? And how helpful is that, would you say?
Do you know what? In the early days, I didn't, and I think I wasted.
Do you think you were like trying to, I've got this, I'll show you kind of thing, or?
And I wasn't thinking like that. I was probably more embarrassed. I didn't know a lot in business at all. Right. And I knew that. They probably seen that as well. So I didn't lean on them at all for the first 18 months, 2 years. I don't think Jack and I used them well at all. Wow. It got to the stage where you're like a year in, say, from them investing, but we're 5 years into business by then. So this is where my head goes. I'm like, they must think we know what we're doing because we've been going for 5 years.
Right.
So I can't say to them,
I have no idea.
How do you read a P&L? Like,
Yeah, wow.
I'm too far embarrassed to ask that question.
Yeah.
So then I just hide in the background and go another year and another year. and all of a sudden they might ask me a question and I'm like, fuck. Now I've got to Google it again. I'm back to Henrik Becker's situation again. So I didn't lean on them enough. But now I definitely do. And I'll ask them if I could pick up the phone and call them anytime. Not one of them's ever like pushed back on anything at all. So, but the challenge we've faced, I guess, on the opposite side of that is that they all offer different opinions to the same scenario.
True.
So they've all got different ways of getting to the same result. So, and I remember Glenn, straight after Shark Tank, I remember being behind the filming in Sydney, behind the show, and he said, "What do you think my job is as a mentor?" And I was like, oh, "Tell me what to do, to guide me, to give me advice." He's like, "I'm not going to do any of that." I was like, oh, "What are you going to do then?" He goes, "I'm just going to challenge your thinking. You're the entrepreneur, you're the visionary." And in my head, I'm thinking, I'm not, the other guy is. But okay.
I'm just the worker bee.
I'm just the worker bee. I'm not supposed to be here. I don't want to be on TV. And he goes, "I'm just going to challenge your thinking." And he stayed so true to that. So I come up, I go, "Look, I'm going to remodel. I think this is the way the business is going to work." And he's like, "Why?" He's like, "Basically sell me on the idea. I'll back you. Right. I'll back you. Whatever you want to do, I'll back you. But you need to sell the idea to me, because I'm not going to come up with ideas for you. Because I've got like 30 odd businesses. I'm not.
What should I do, kind of thing? Yeah.
Yeah, like that. He says we're not your Google, so to speak. Sure. And I think that was really important lesson. As now a coach and mentor, I'm not sitting there thinking of solutions for everybody. I'm just going to challenge why they've come to the conclusion they have.
What do you think some of the hardest things have been for you? Like the biggest challenges, maybe like things you've had to sacrifice?
I want to say time with my kids, but I actually feel like I've done quite well with that. Like I always wanted to be a dad from my early 20s. I've got 2 boys. So I was traveling a fair bit. So if I look, Maverick was born December 2018. So by the time like he was 2, Jack had exited, I've taken on all these corporate gigs that we were responsible for delivering. Some of them could still be done in person, even through COVID. And now I'm having to travel when I hadn't planned to travel. Right. So like I did miss a little bit, but I feel like I've done well there. But there's being with your kids and there's being present with your kids. There's a huge difference between the two. Yeah. So the sacrifice then is just sleep and energy and health. Like for many years, I'd even before kids, 14, 15-hour days, 7 days a week, but wearing it as a badge of honor, like telling everybody, full dickhead.
I had this, I'll share this because it's really relevant to the kids thing. And I had so much respect for him. So on that same session last week with Patrick, like he's in front of probably, 4 people. They pay like $1 million just in that one little group, right? And the dude is just so present. Like he's like fixated on you. And then right in that same moment, his phone rings and it's like his son and he's injured at like his soccer match. And he's just like on the Zoom and he's like fully there, pulls his phone out. He's like, "What's up? Are you all right?" And it's like this whole call doesn't exist. Everyone around him is just like, listen, 100% respect.
Wow.
And he's just like, "Is it here or is it there? Where's the pain? What kind of pain is it? Okay, now you go do that." And he's just like, I was like, holy shit, like the presence that you give your boy, and it's almost like that's what it's for. Yeah. You know what I mean? If it's like at every single moment you're sitting there and you're like, "Oh yeah, I'll get to you soon. Oh yeah. Like, hold on a second, I just got to finish this email." It's like you're always like half in and half out. Yeah. I observed that and I was like, whoa.
I think having that ability to like chunk your life into different zones and go, right, I'm here with you right now. I've got another call later on. Cool. There's lots of other stuff going on, but I'm here and I'm present. Then I'm going to have my boys later on and I'm present. That's a skill. And the only reason I was able to do that, or I feel like I do that relatively well, is because of how organized I am with my day. I won't allow you to give me something to think about and force me to think about it right now. All right. So if from a sales perspective, or from a business perspective, my team go, "Hey, have you thought about doing this?" I'm like, yeah, email me. I'll think about it tomorrow at 2:00 when I've got my thinking space. Yeah, I have designated thinking or creative time in my diary. So like a new idea comes to me, I'll email myself. I'll red flag it. It's gone. It's in. It's gone because right now I'm present. Does that make sense? Like what I see a lot of business owners do, they'll entertain little micro conversations with their staff, even in morning huddles. Somebody will say, hey, well, why don't we do this? And they'll go, oh yeah, well, how would that work? I'm like, why are you talking about it right now? It should be have you thought about doing this? Maybe. Let's think about it tomorrow at 2:00 when we've got the time scheduled to think. That means I can be present and really dissect that. I don't get micro distracted at all.
I think I've observed that through knowing you a little bit in terms of how like hyper scheduled you are in terms of like catch up here, no, not going to work. What about here? No, not going to work. I'm booked out until here. We have to do it after this.
Yeah, I'm strict with it as well. Yeah. Even I was getting so drained. Like my diary's not back to back. I have buffers. I have life buffers in there. Like I have a life buffer in the morning for school drop-offs, and I have a life buffer in the afternoon for school drop-offs and pickups. Even though like I'm separated with my ex-wife now, even on the days when I don't have the boys, I still have the time blocked out that would be school pickup case every day, in case something happens to her. If something happens to her, I'm going to go, right? So my team know they can't book appointments there. So, and then if nothing happens.
There's no exceptions to these at all?
No. Oh, very, very rarely. Very, very rarely. But like my diary's booked out for 18 months. And now with Maverick starting school, you have to be. Anybody that's got kids, there's Christmas carols, there's end of year ceremonies, there's dress up days, and I don't want to miss any of that. So I've booked all of our events for the next 18 months. I've booked around Maverick's schedule.
Wow.
Because that's really important to me.
Do you think like an earlier stage entrepreneur should behave similar to that, or do you think there's a little bit more maybe to say yes, figure it out later kind of attitude?
So there's a lady I met on Necker, a lady called Carolina Peltz. Yeah. Right? She Polish lady, lives in London. She started a company called Beyond Play. That's the one that she sold 25 million 3 years later, 25 million euros. Absolute weapon of a woman, was working 18, 19 hour days, 7 days a week for 3 years. And she talks so honestly about what it's like as an early stage founder. And if you want to have an ice bath in the morning and you want to go for a little walk and have your caramel maca laca and whatever it is, that's cool. But she says, I wouldn't have achieved what I did if I did that. So now she's doing it. Now she's very aware of her health and wellness.
But she went full
But she went full pelt. And it was a common theme on Necker Island as well. They're all aware now, retrospectively, of their health and maybe how it was impacted. But they wouldn't have achieved what they did if they were working 8 hours a day. So there's some sort of balance that you got to find. I'm a big fan of like micro self-care moments. Right. So can you build in micro self-care moments into your day? For me, it's when I finish a session, like I've got a studio in the office and I'm in this darkened room, can I get out on the balcony for 5 minutes and just get a little bit of sunlight? Am I drinking enough water? Right. What music am I listening to on the way into the office? Like is that something that's just going to lift me that 1% that means I perform better when I get in? Have I been able to build in walks and gym and ice baths every day? No. Like I feel like I've just started the business again 10 years in. Wow. As we've remodeled. So
10 years. I listen to that. I'm like, that's like a significant milestone. What would you say some of the biggest, like maybe not the biggest, but just more significant, maybe more relevant kind of standout moments during that kind of timeline has been overall?
Like specific moments. Yeah. Shark Tank for sure. The lesson to that is that if you don't have somebody by your side that will push you and drive you, you'll miss those sliding door opportunities. So I didn't want to go on Shark Tank, and Jack did, and Jack applied, didn't tell me, asked me what I thought about going on Shark Tank. I said, it sounds stupid. Well, why would we do that? I just didn't want to go on TV. And then he said, that's a shame because we've already been accepted. So having that person kind of nudge me without even telling me they're nudging me, is created a massive milestone. Not because of the money. We didn't get a lot of money. We got less than 200 grand. Like that didn't really change anything. What it did was give me a belief in my business that you've got these three guys that have looked at us, that three of the smartest guys in Australia, or even globally, and they've done due diligence on us for 6 months, and then they've gone, this has got legs. actually like
Yeah,
this.
very true. The confidence that would give you to be like, hey, like we've looked at your business model, we approve. Let's put some money into that.
Yeah,
thing.
like it's like, okay, cool. Maybe I'll go all in as well then. If these guys like
true.
it, man, because you think you're all in.
You do, but there's always another layer. There's another deeper level of commitment. Yeah,
there is. And I think I said it. There was also a conversation I had with Harry Singer about, have you decided that you want to become Australia's #1 sales coach? Because it won't just happen. You've got to make that specific decision. So I think that was a milestone for me to go all in as a coach and a mentor, and stop saying I'm an introvert and stop saying that I shouldn't be on stage. Actually acknowledge it and go, I'm actually good at what I do. I've got enough runs on the board. It's like when is enough to go? I'm actually quite good at this.
Yeah.
And then the other one I'll say is Necker Island for sure. Not for Richard Branson. I never thought I'd get on there. I went through 8 months of interviews to get on there. So multiple Zoom meetings and email questionnaires and applications. And I had huge imposter syndrome. Even as we're on we got to fly Brisbane, San Fran, Miami to British Virgin Islands. Then we got a boat over to the island. Like it's a mammoth trip.
Wow.
And even as I'm there waiting on this boat, looking around at all these other people, I've put everybody on pedestals.
Yeah, wow.
And rightly so for a lot of them. Sure. I'm like, I don't. How am I here? Like you're going around the room. You're like, I build hydrogen fueled the world's first hydrogen fueled commercial airliners. 28-year-old Aloha from Paris. And I'm like, cool. I built a language app, and we sold for 1.1 billion. They're like, Jesus. Ryan. I'm like, hey. So, but what I realized very quickly was, and this became my little elevator pitch when people were going around saying, so what do you do? I'm like, well, you know how you're a genius, and you build planes, and you build apps, and you save dolphins. I help you do that by helping you articulate your message better. And what I realized, literally within hours of being on that island, I'm like, I deserve to be here, because none of these guys would have succeeded with what they've done without having an ability to sell their message. And I coach some of them now. Like I'm working with Aloha, the lady that's selling the planes. Like I'm hopefully, without speaking, I'm hopefully going to sell some of the planes for her.
That's amazing.
She's selling to celebrities and politicians. I'm like
jets, private jets,
commercial private jets.
And that's the same sell.
Yeah, same sell.
Same.
It's the same.
Whether you're selling
she's got
$80 million jet.
They're like 12 to 15 million euros. Okay. Yeah. Cheap as chips.
Not too bad.
But like, and there's 10 years. They're not gonna be ready for 10 years.
Oh, well, all these are hydrogen jets.
Yeah, it's not even ready. Yeah, she's raised 600 million euros, and she's like, Ryan, I can't sell. I'm like, I think you can, but I can still help you. but just genius people. And recognizing that what I do belongs in the world and needs to be in the world, and I've the imposter syndrome's gone. I'll go into any room and I'm like, I'm comfortable here. I deserve to be here. Yeah. Like booking Jeremy or whoever we've got booked for October next year, which I can't share just yet.
Secret, we'll find out.
We've got mate.
Really?
It's amazing.
Wow.
It's amazing. Touch wood, it's not done just yet, but there's 2 people that if we pull it off,
they top the current list as of this year.
Oh, wow. It's not even close.
In the sales space?
Maybe. Maybe not.
I'm excited. What would you say, like, I think some of the key things that I'm, like, looking to extract out of you is some of the organizational pieces in terms of, like, people who I feel like if people could run their schedule a little bit more like you, that would help. And then if people could learn maybe a few keys to communicate better and more effectively to get what they want. Mm-hmm. Those would be some, like, really strong takeaways outside of, like, listening to your amazing story.
Yeah. From a systems or a structural perspective. So I had a lot of help. Glenn Richards actually recognized quite early on after Shark Tank that we didn't have the infrastructure in place to support the growth that we were having. And he introduced me to a lady called Anna Samios. You would have seen Anna speak at the conference. With her. Are you going to do the Performance 7? Yeah. Yeah, amazing. So she helped us implement the Rockefeller habits and the scaling up methodology. Which in essence is the phrase I like, and I'm sure it was Anna that said it to me, it's the heartbeat. It's like your business is a living organism and it needs to be rhythmic. And so even just down to the fact that every day, 8:30 till 8:40, even wherever I'm in the world, I know exactly where my team are going to be standing or on Zoom. And they have a 10-minute meeting, the morning huddle. And if your team gets too big and you can't do it with 5 or 6 people, you break it into pods and they have the same meeting.
And 5 or 6, that's that sweet spot number. Really.
To be able to do it in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because that's the key. We don't want to be able to do it in much more than 10 to 12 minutes.
Got it.
And we lost track of that for a while, and Anna is constantly on at me to keep that condensed. These should not be going for 25, 30 minutes. We want to get momentum early in the morning. So morning huddle, 10 to 12 minutes, 3 wins from yesterday, 3 focus areas for today, metric for success. So how do you know you are going to win today? What is your success metric? So not just walking out the door and going, "Do you have a good day?" "Yeah, it was awesome." "All right, see you tomorrow." It's like, how do you know you had a good day?
And this is not like your to-dos for the day.
This is not my to-dos. This is on top of my to-dos.
Yeah.
So having that visual dashboard to be able to go, Ethan had a good day today. Toby had a good day today. Sasha had a crap day today. How do you know? Because he didn't hit that. Whatever it is. And then the final one is challenges. So what challenges do you have right now, or do you see coming up today? Little key there is that you don't solve the challenges in the meeting.
Right.
So I have a buffer in my diary. After every morning huddle, I have 15 to 30 minutes, depending on what day it is, where I solve any challenges. So if you said to me, "Ryan, I'm struggling with X, Y, Z," I don't then go, "All right, well, let's talk about it Thursday," or "Let's email me." We have time immediately after to solve it as quickly as possible. So we're never more than 24 hours away from a morning huddle and ultimately being able to solve problems if we can. So we go morning huddle for 10 minutes. Then we go into sales surgery. So this is just our sales team and our customer experience team. So anybody that's got opportunities in the pipeline. And we use something called MAMOA, MAMOA.
And this is directly after the morning huddle. You jump
directly after the morning huddle. So morning huddle. So anybody that's not in sales, they then go into another 10-minute. So we have like an overarching one with the whole team, then we or divisional, and then they'll go and do like an admin one or a marketing one, and they'll have another 10 minutes specifically to that.
Understood.
It's like you don't need to hear about that.
Of course.
And then anybody that's sales orientated, we have our sales surgery. So another 10 minutes. It's basically a pipeline audit.
Okay.
So, and it's what opportunities have you got today? And you might go, "Ryan, I've got Tony. He's in my pipeline. He's looking at paying for X, Y, Z." You go, "Okay, perfect." So are we going to move him along, MA? Are we going to move him out, MO? Or are we going to ask him for the business today? So that's my MAMOA. So you go, "I'm going to move him along." And the way we know we're going to move him along is that he is in the first 50 to 60% of your sales cycle. So if you've got a 10-day sales cycle, he's before day 6. Does that make sense? And if he is, we're gonna move him along. And the question I'll ask you is, okay, so you got Tony. Tony's on day 4 of the sales cycle. What personality type is he?
Right.
And you're gonna go, he's an I personality type. I'm gonna go, okay, perfect. So what content of value are you gonna send him today, or what resource are you gonna give him to lend him value today? So we do contents of value, which is value-led follow-up.
Sure.
So I'm going to throw something at you. I'm going to throw you a resource that helps you solve your problem without you paying for it. What I don't do is ask you for the business.
So it's purely just, I'm going to move you along by giving you something that might help based on your personality type, and that kind of like you're 60% through the process.
Yeah. It's basically me just going, "Hey, just still here. Just letting you know I'm still here. I'm not doing the traditional following up, touching base, circling back around, checking in. How are you going with X, Y, Z? Did you look at the proposal? Have you got the quote just yet? I haven't seen your payment drop just yet."
What's wrong with that, Ryan? Why would you not do that?
Well, anybody that's listening to this knows why they shouldn't do it, because it's not helping them make sales. And what we do then is create this traditional sales approach, which raises their sales defenses. So every time I touch them, I want to lower their sales defenses and before we raise buyer's acceptance. And when we do it as a value-led follow-up through contents of value, we increase our trust credits. And recognizing that the second I put the phone down on you, jump off a Zoom, jump out of a meeting, your trust credits start to diminish.
As in, I start doubting who you are, or what you've told me, all that stuff. Is that right?
Life gets in the way. You get other people will plant seeds of doubt in there. We're we have a negative bias as humans, so I'm going to be much more inclined to go away and think of reasons not to do as opposed to reasons to. And if you call me the next day and you ask me if I've made a decision, you've just given me another reason not to, because you've just positioned yourself back as the salesperson again.
Got it.
So how do we go from salesperson, consultant, advisor to trusted advisor? We keep adding trust credits. So I'll go as far as on our 2-day sales process intensive, we create automations and triggers 24, 48, 72 hours after the initial touch point, which are content and value led.
Got it.
So we'll jump off a call today. Tomorrow morning, I've moved you a stage along in my sales pipeline, and it automatically sets a trigger off to send you an email that says, hey, Sasha, yesterday we spoke about tonality. I thought you'd find this valuable. Now, you just got to make sure you spoke about tonality on the call. Otherwise, it's weird. But we can create all that. We've got technology that allows us to do that, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, there's Ryan. Oh, I bet he's wondering if I made a decision. Oh, no, he's just giving me something. Yeah. Like, nobody's ever said, can you stop giving me value? Yeah, but they have said, can you stop calling me and annoying me? So we go, who are we going to move along? Then we go, who are we going to move out? And these are the people in the last 30 to 40% of the sales cycle.
So they're coming towards the end.
So we know for us, if you get, this is for we got 3 tiers. So tier 2, which is $10,000 to $100,000 products.
Yep.
If you get to outside of our sales cycle, our sales drop by 72%.
So if you get out, whatever that given time frame is.
So let's say it's 10 days. If you get to day 11, our chance of converting you drops by 72%.
Wow.
You cannot get to day 11. So this is Hail Mary period. So we've gone contents of value. We've maybe called and asked you for the business because you're at the sweet spot. We're sensing that you're there. But you haven't quite gone. Then we're going to move you out. How do we move you out? We move you out with what we call a line in the sand message. The line in the sand message has evolved a lot over the years. It started off verbally with me just having a chat with somebody that had been stringing me out, I reckon, for about a year. Yep. And eventually, and we've all said this, like, mate, are you interested or what? Yeah. Like that. Have you've done that? Yeah? Like, you can just tell me. Like, if you don't like me, you don't like my business, you can just tell me. And they go, mate, I'm not interested. I'm like, why didn't you tell me 8 months ago? Yeah. So the principle is that I'm just going to move people out that are wasting my time.
So you're trying to intentionally brush those people that are just clogging up space.
Yeah.
Last 30%.
Because most salespeople have a false pipeline. They come in and you hear it. Every morning you go, let's throw Adnan under the bus. Adnan, who you got? And he goes, I've got Tony, I got Sarah, I got Michelle. And you go, you've been telling Michelle now for the last 4 weeks. Like, what's going on with her? You had this conversation. And if you know that your sales cycle is 2 weeks and he's been telling you 4 weeks in a row, the same person. Yeah. Oh, well, she's got a lot going on. She's got line in the sand, right? Anybody that's ghosting you, anybody that's towards the back end of their sales cycle, line in the sand. Right. Do you want the line in the sand message?
Sure. Let's hear it.
So they can download it. So line in the sand, the elegant version now goes something like this. Hey, Sasha, been great getting to know you over the last 6 or 7 weeks. So I time anchor it to remind them of how long we've been speaking as well. Been great understanding how you're wanting to improve, and then I put in exactly what they said they wanted to get out of it, the outcome. However, the last thing I want to do is keep reaching out for something that you've got absolutely zero interest in. So whether it's a yes or a no, I'll fully respect it. If it is a no, at least you can draw a line in the sand and focus on what you need to focus on. However, if there is still any level of interest in, and then insert the outcome, I'd have one final opportunity for a chat, either this afternoon after 2 or tomorrow morning after 10. Got it. Would that sound sensible to you? And we just throw that out. We do it on day 1 of the boot camp. We do an exercise where we figure out who those people are at the end of the sales cycle, who are the tie kickers, and then I get 200 people in a room to get their phone out and send that message, and they make sales that day. That's incredible. It's so proven that it just works. So, but you've got to send it at the right time. If you're
doing it early,
it doesn't make sense. Yeah. If I come in and do you know your sales cycles?
At the moment, average cash conversion cycle is about 32 days.
Okay, so imagine day 4, and you send me a message saying, "Matt, if you're not interested, just let us know." It just that comes across as high pressure. Yeah. So you've got, and most companies don't know, they're not tracking their sales cycles. Yeah. They've got no idea what it looks like.
So true.
So then, when should I send this message? Then they go, "I'll just send it to everybody." I'm like, no, don't do that. You'll kill deals. Yeah. If you're doing we got a 2.5 year government tender. If I'd have messaged the procurement officer after a month saying, look, if you guys ain't interested, do you know who I am? Like, so we've got to understand that first. Right. So we go, who we're going to move along, who we're going to move out, and then who we're going to ask for the business. So this is in our sales surgery. And then you go, I'm going to ask Tony for the business. He's an I personality type. Feel like he's good to go. And I'll go, how are you going to ask him for the business? And I want you to give me the language pattern that you're going to use when you pick up the phone. Right. And then we go straight into role play. So nice. we go morning huddle, sales surgery, straight into role play, get on with our day.
You mentioned this, the personality profiles a little bit. Can we just touch on that a fraction? Because I feel like when you explain that to me, and I've tried to re-explain it to some people, and I'm like, ooh, that is not the same.
Yeah, okay.
So maybe just unpack that a little bit, because I got so much value from it. I think it's very interesting for salespeople, but then also just for anybody to actually understand.
Yeah. I think the thing to recognize is that we're all wired differently, which most people seem to know, but we forget it in a sales moment. And what there's a great study from Gong, do you know Gong.io? Yep. And they studied 10,000 sales calls, inbound sales calls, about 2019. And they wanted to see what percentage of those sales calls would become a sale. And it was 28%. And they said, okay, so we close on average of 10,000 people, about 1 in 4. 28%. So they said, okay, well, let's take this a step further. They're a big advocate for personality profiling, as I am. I'll talk about DISC in a second. They said, is there a prominent personality type that is going to buy? And what they found was, out of that 28%, the most prominent buying persona was whichever one matched the salesperson. So if for people who haven't heard of DISC, there's 4 different personality types created by a guy called William Moulton Marsden back in 1928. He's the guy that created the polygraph machine, the lie detector test. And he said we have dominant personas, we have influencer personas, steady and conscientious. Dominant people are fast and direct, quite opinionated, quite abrupt. They're very results driven. Influencers are fast and direct also, but they're more people focused. They like shiny objects. They don't have great attention to detail. Our steadies are a bit more slow and reserved. They do follow systems well, but they're a little bit resistant to change. And then the conscientious / compliance are also slow and reserved, but they're more detail orientated and task orientated. So everything has to be right. That's where I fall. So what happens is, if we sell how we like to buy, we're creating a disconnect unconsciously with the customer. And it can be as easy as this. Like my close, when I was trained almost straight line version back in the boiler room days, was, so Sasha, the process from here is really simple, requires nothing more than a basic bit of information, and I'll take care of absolutely everything else for you. Sound good? You've heard that before, right? But the sentence itself, the process from here, I love processes. I'm a process. Yeah, you were saying
exactly what you would have used yourself to buy.
If I'm closing me, I'm like, oh, he's talking my language. Yeah. If I'm closing an I personality type, I've just put them off right at the business end of the conversation. Yeah. So now if I've got somebody that's an I, and I know they're fast-paced, shiny object, and they're people-orientated, I'll go, Sasha, this is where the fun starts. You get to join the family. You excited? That's my close. It's very different. If I've got an S who's a lot more slow and reserved, right. Little bit cautious, apprehensive, but they're still people orientated. They actually care. I might say, look, Sasha, can we take a step back for a second? Because I want to make sure that we hold your hand every step of the way. Make sure that you've got all the information and leave no stone unturned. Is that okay if we just slow down for a second?
Just softens.
And you're like, yeah, I wanted to slow down. If I can say what you're thinking before you say it, you feel understood. And if you've been doing it long enough, like you do understand how they're feeling. But there's some people out there, 17, 18 years old, they haven't been doing it long enough, so they don't know how people are feeling, but you can read their personality type. And if I've got 4 different ways to say everything, then I can close all different personality types, not just 25% of the market.
Do you recommend, because this is something that I've been like pondering on since like learning this a little bit more, like newer salespeople jumping in, learning like personality-based selling, because like I listen to this, I'm like, this is genius, but then there's also like every single like potential like line or verbiage that you use has like 4 different variations.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you take your like process and script and you multiply it by 4, and then you're like,
there's levels
learn,
to the game.
Now learn all of those things.
Yeah, don't do that.
You know, so is it like start with like one process that's more uniform and then chunk into personalities? Is that how you see it?
Yeah, for sure. So give them a framework for sure. And the main thing is, right, so we've got what we call our negotiation ladder, which is a 10-step process to create clients for life. Stage 4 of that is your discovery, which is where I believe your sale is won or lost. Your ability to ask the right questions at the right time in the right tone. So getting the questions in the right order is more important than asking the right questions. If you really want to affect change and get somebody to find problems that they didn't even know they had, the order is more important than anything else.
So not even asking exactly the right question, but
you can mess it up.
Wow.
You can mess the question. When I helped you, I said Spotify instead of Shopify. I don't know what I was talking. I knew nothing about ecom and made 2 sales and 2 calls. Like, it was easy.
Yeah, we set you up on Spotify.
Yeah, I don't know.
You'll be streaming music in no time.
I don't know anything about the industry. I trusted you and I believed in you, and that was enough. That was enough for me.
Yeah.
But I'm still asking questions in the right order. And the order is past, present, future. So what have you done before? What are you doing now? Where do you want to be in the future? What if you don't? Cost of inaction. So like, as long as I've got my questions in the right order, that's a good foundation. As we advance, of course, we'd start throwing a few personality-based questions in there as well, because you can pick it up pretty quick. Because I'm only asking 2 questions. Are they fast or slow? Are they task or people?
Yeah, right.
And that the only 2 questions that I so in the you bring your team to the boot camp, right?
Yeah.
We'll do like 3 hours of this.
Yeah, wow.
Deep
I know that after they learnt some of the content, they like went gung ho and started applying it to like all these things, and then they were just like, wind it back. You can
psychoanalyze everything.
Because and then they're like getting into conversation like, is it an I person? Is it this person? And then like,
which means you're not present.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the whole conversation is derails, and so they're like, all right, well, I really tried this thing, but now I'm just like winding back to process for the minute. Yeah.
So I'll show them how to do it in like baby steps. It's like anything. Like you're not going to make decisions to have a 100-person business if at the minute you've got a 5-person business. Like you've got to get to 10 first, then you got to get to 20. Right. And it's the same with the foundations of sales. Like let's understand why we're doing it. So firstly, let's recognize there are different personality types out there, and we do need to learn to adapt, adjust, and respond. Do I need to analyze every word that I say? Nah. Like you can make massive mistakes on the call. It's not going to win or lose you a sale. Like I still make mistakes. I mean, I've got my framework. Right? I know I've got my preparation right, my intros right, my frames in place, my discoveries right. I'm always going to offer free options because we've got middle offering syndrome. So I know that over 80% of people will choose the middle one. Right. My trial close is on point, and then I've got my objection handling. The words, they just kind of fill around the skeleton.
I see what you mean, yeah. If people were to listen to you verbatim, it would be like not exactly the best way to model Ryan, because it's like these are just your words built into the framework.
I don't want them to model me. It's like, because it's a process that's proven. It's not Ryan that's proven. It's the process that's proven. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
if they and this is why when people say, "Oh, it's all right for you," it rolls off your tongue. I'm like, it rolls off my tongue now because I've done 330,000 cold calls. I've been punched in the face more than any of you.
Wow.
I was doing 300 a day for 4.5, 5 years. Like even when we started the business, Jack and I, and then again when we started the real estate business, we were doing cold calling. Wow. So probably more than that. I didn't include the callboard ones, but so I've said things so many times, and that gets you sharp eventually. And I don't like friction. I don't like confrontation. So I wanted to figure out ways to stop objections before they arise.
Right.
And that's when I stumbled across Eli Wild and his pre-frame, deframe, reframe. Like that strategy is genius.
Love that.
Like the ability to get somebody to remove an objection before they arise by not even planting the seed, just giving them the thought. It's just like just saying what they might be thinking. They feel understood, and it changes the way they might be thinking.
As in, like asking, is money a concern or something of that nature earlier on?
Yeah, more so like it's more of a statement. So like if you're not thinking this, you should be. So for us, from a training perspective, one of the most common bits of friction we used to get was, well, how do I know my team are going to do the online training? We're better in person. So, and if you keep getting the same thing, then you got to change what you were doing. So I'd say, Sash, look, mate, you've been in business a long time. You get it. If you weren't thinking this, you should be. Can I share it with you? Right. So I don't just say it. I ask for permission to share it with you, because that means you really take in what I'm about to say.
Got it.
So can I share it with you? Right. You should be asking yourself, how do I know my team are going to engage in the training? Like, they're probably better in person, probably get more out of it, more motivational, and then you go, well, yeah, I was thinking that. Right. So all of a sudden you go, he gets me. He understands me. Well, what I will do when we get to the end, if pertinent, I'll share with you how we do that. And then I'll just
massive
close that
just
loop.
trust, and just like lets me relax.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to it. I'm not hiding anything. If you're probably wondering, why are these guys 20% higher price than everything else on the market? And you should be at this stage, because you don't know enough about us just yet. So I will get to that. Is there anything else that's on your mind? Like, just bring it to the table. I had a sales coach say to me years ago, why are you giving them the objections? I'm like, I'm not giving. 90% of people say these things. Yeah. The objections are already there. I'm not giving it to them. I'm just showing that I don't fear them.
Yeah.
And I don't fear them. Like, if I was in their shoes, they'd be the questions I'd ask as well. And data suggests that 90% of people do have those same questions. So I'd rather bring it to the table so we can talk about it now, so you don't go and talk to your Uncle John at the pub that knows nothing about my services.
Why do you think people have that issue with bringing up those sensitive things at the start as far as concerns? Because it's like that old methodology that's kind of just like have them say yes a whole bunch of times. If they say whatever the magic number is of however many yeses they need to say, that it's like bring the problem to the surface right at the top of the call in terms of maybe a concern or something that they might have.
So what does the salesperson have that fear?
Like resistance towards it, or like fearful of it, yeah.
I think because they think it will create an objection. They think that you're giving them the objection, whereas that you could put them on 100 calls and they get that objection every single time. They didn't say it, but it still came up. So you got to let the data dictate the operations. Yeah. So that's why I normally say, if I'm training a company, I'll say, what are the most top 3 common objections that you get on a day-to-day basis? And they'll go this, and this. And it's pretty much the same every industry.
Of course.
I'll go, okay, and you bring that to the table before it comes up? Oh, well, no, like if they say something, I'll deal with it. I'm like, okay, there's your problem. Because when they verbalize it, they own it. So if we look at the way our brain is wired, we have something called neural pathways, and when we verbalize something, we believe it to be true. Sure. So the more we verbalize it, the more we believe it to be true. So I don't want them to say it. I don't want them to say the objection. They can hear it, and I can say it to them, but I don't want them to actually say those words. Well, can you just tell me how much it is? Right. If that's all they're thinking about, by the time they say it, they've been thinking about that for 10 minutes, and they missed everything that you said beforehand. Right. So framing a conversation. It's almost like
you're blocking up their mental capacity by they're sitting there just holding on to that thing rather than getting it out.
Yeah, like so I have I'm giving you everything now. We have a process called framing, a 4-step process at the start of an interaction, just ANOT. So I'm going to appreciate and acknowledge the time that we're sharing together today. I will then say, naturally, after X amount of years in this industry, and I'll tell you how long I've been doing this for. We call that a value builder, and assisting 21,500 businesses and individuals globally, company value builder. I've certainly learned to recognize that everybody's situation is different. You feel unique. Obviously, my role is to make sure that if you do have a problem that we can solve, I'll walk you through what options we might have. So I'll ask you a few simple questions, see whether we can assist you or not. That's a play down statement. And typically, this will go one of 2 ways. If at the end of asking you those questions, it's really obvious that we can't help you, is it okay if I'm just quite brutally honest with you and just let you know? Would that be okay? Yeah. Okay. On the flip side of that, if it's really apparent that based on the responses you give me, that there's an overlap in what we do and what you're looking for, is it okay that I walk you through what options we have, the pricing, the terms, the deliverables, the quality, the manufacturing, whatever it is, and I tell them what's coming up. Got it. So now they can go, all right, thank you so much for sharing 30 minutes with me. We've got 30 minutes. He's going to tell me how much it's going to be. He's going to tell me about the quality. He's going to tell me about the engagement. Now I can just listen to you and be present, and they can be present in their own responses to your questions. And that's when you get the real motivational drivers.
Yeah, that's powerful. Very, very powerful. Capturing that all in the front. I like the positioning of like 21,000 businesses, like that little elegant kind of frame piece to have them really paying attention to like who you are a lot more as well.
Without context, it's weird.
Yeah.
So it has to be It has to be. It's not, hey, just so you know, I'll tell you a little bit about us first. It's,
Sure.
hey, Sash, I just want to say, like, we've been super fortunate. Now, it's a gratitude statement. We've been super fortunate over the last 10 years to coach 21,500 businesses and individuals. The reason I share that with you, and that's my justifier. The reason I share that with you is that what we've learned in that time is that everybody's situation is different. Like the reasons people reach out, it could be absolutely anything. So in a second, I'm going to ask you what made you reach out. Obviously, my role, I'm telling you what questions are coming up. So now you can start thinking about it, and you can give me a considered response, not a reflex response.
Yeah, so true.
So if I just say, so what made you reach out? Oh, I just saw the ad, so I just wanted to find out what you got.
Like I'm almost like pre-preparing for what's to come already, and I'm like, I know that's going to come, therefore I'm going to give a more honest answer.
Yeah. If I sense you're a little bit closed off, I'll say, look, the more you share with me, the better I can potentially tailor options for you if we have any options for you.
Yeah.
But just share what you feel comfortable, if that's okay. And then I'll say, so I might ask you questions about what have you done before? What are you doing right now? Like, where do you ideally want to be in the future? Right. And I'm telling them past, present, future.
Wow.
It's coming up.
Wow.
So now they can go, oh, he's going to ask me what I did before. What did I do before? Oh, yeah, I did that. Okay, I'll tell him that.
Right.
So now they're already thinking about the responses. So once I get a more considered response, we're in a deeper conversation. And they're like, I'm opening up. You ever had it where you chat to somebody and you're like, I'm telling them so much and I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know, how is this person getting all this out of me in this therapist chair right now, talking about my childhood and crying? Like, how? It's because they use what's called motivational interviewing, and they just go layers deep with it. And most salespeople just sit right on the top layer.
I had that done to me actually one time.
Done for you?
Yeah, done for me. Done to me / for me. I think it was at the end of a 1 or 2 day workshop, and then they had like these like strategically booked like strategy sessions after this like 2 day workshop.
I was lucky.
I was blessed. Hopped onto this strategy session, and it was like 15 minutes, and it was just like hardcore, just like straight into the pain, straight into the problem of like the situation. It had some context because like we just spent 2 days going through like a lot of stuff on this event, and I was like really kind of like opened up into all these things we were working through. And I remember like getting into this conversation, 6 or 7 minutes, I'm like crying, and next minute I'm handing my credit card, and I'm like, how is this happening?
Yeah,
I'm like, that is so fast. Jeez.
It's because it's working with human behavior. Yeah. Like we work with some mental health facilities, some charities that help with suicide prevention and drug rehabilitation. Those guys are actually saving lives, not just changing lives; they're saving lives. And it was only then one of the women that owns one of the companies, I won't mention them because I can't, but she said to me, Ryan, what you're doing there is what's called motivational interviewing. And I didn't even realize. So then I went down the rabbit hole of looking into motivational interviewing, and it's what the clinicians and the psychologists use. So it's like 2 or 3 questions, 4 or 5 layers deep, and it has an ability to open you up. But it's so past, precise. Present, future.
Yeah,
it's that order because I need. Everyone talks about gap selling, but it's true, right? The bigger the gap, the faster I'll act. Yeah. So if I'm what happens most of the time is Ryan, you popped your details in to find out about looking at our building an e-com store. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So tell me about that. What are you looking for? And all I do is go in the future.
True.
I haven't gone backwards.
Because it's easy to talk about.
It's easy.
It's easy to talk about the future, talk about your goals, talk about the things you want to get.
Which is not what drives action. Pain drives action. So, and this is the part about sales that I actually hated for a long time. Talking about people's pains. I didn't want to make people feel uncomfortable and cry. Like that's not why I got into sales. Well, I got dragged into sales. Sure. But when I started studying humans and not sales, I'm like, how do you create genuine change and transformation? Right. We're 90% more driven to move away from current pain or future pain than we are towards potential future pleasure. So everyone's like, so what are your goals, your dreams? Yeah, we can help you achieve that. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
People don't even believe that they can even do that.
That's the roll of the dice, right? Yeah. So you're asking me to roll the dice. I'm not asking you to roll the dice. I'm asking you to recognize where you're at right now, and if you're not happy with it, we can make a change.
Solve that problem. That's absolutely guaranteed to mess your shit up if it doesn't get fixed.
That's why I love the close. Like, so how long you been going through this for? 6 months, a year, 2 years. Okay, so can I ask you a question then? Where will you be if you do nothing? Because you probably knew how you felt 6 months ago. You knew how you felt 12 months ago, 18 months ago. So where will you be if you do nothing versus where could you be if you did something? then I'm going to ask them to repeat the pain for another 6, 12, 18 months. And people go, oh, well, that's manipulative. Well, not if you genuinely believe in what you do. Are these psychologists and therapists manipulating people?
Yeah.
They're not manipulating you so you don't commit suicide. They're saving your life. They have a duty of care and a responsibility. And I think we choose businesses very carefully now on who we work with, because this is so powerful.
Because you're empowering like someone else to produce or sell more of their product.
And I've been around enough boiler rooms to lift the hood up on somebody and go, we don't need to work with you guys. Like, because it's a dangerous skill. Jordan Belfort proved it.
Yeah.
He just, as I said, used it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, I learned a lot from that guy.
Yeah. Right and wrong.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some nuggets now. I learned a lot from him as well.
Yeah.
I've studied so many sales trainers, and there's a lot that I'm not aligned with morally. But it's like anything. What can I get that 1 little %, and then can I do that for the right reasons? Can I add some values and some morals in there to that? Yeah, it doesn't mean it doesn't work. If I was to dismiss everything because I didn't like somebody, then there'd be a lot of lessons that I would have missed over the years.
Yeah, very true, very true. I want to ask you a few things before we wrap up. Number one, where can people hang out with you? Because I feel like I'm learning just even more than I knew prior. And I'm just like, there's so much more. That
I can't believe you've never done the boot camp, by the way.
I mean, I'm sorry.
So connect with me on socials. I'm active on socials these days. I've got a face on there. So at Ryan Tuckwood Official is, I think, Facebook and Instagram, and then LinkedIn is just Ryan Tuckwood. And then swishsalescoaching.com is the website. But events, we've got our 3-day boot camp. That's our flagship event that we've been running since 2015 now. So a 3-day event on the Gold Coast, sales psychology, sales process, sales execution. And then we now have launched, as of 4 or 5 weeks ago, our annual conference. I think it will be an annual conference because it went pretty well. Yeah. So the Swish Sales Conference will be back in 2025.
Huge.
Speakers to be announced.
Huge.
You cannot even imagine.
I'm super excited. What's exciting for you at the moment? Like what motivates you and drives you in the current stage that you're in?
That's a good question. So you remember earlier on I said I made a decision to be Australia's #1 sales coach.
Yeah.
I more recently made a decision that we were going to disrupt the events space.
Interesting.
Really excites
I didn't know about
me.
this.
Really excites me. So I did an event in New Zealand. I was MC for David Goggins, and it turned into a bit of a pitch fest. I got caught up in it, and it didn't feel right on the day the way it played out. And this industry is just ripe for disruption. There's companies putting on events. They bring in a big speaker. They sell 3, 4, 5,000 tickets, and then you, as an audience member, have to sit through 8 hours of pitches before you get 1 hour of that headline speaker.
It's so wrong.
And people are craving genuine, value-driven events. We obviously did ours a few weeks ago. We had 1,000 people in the room over 2 days, and that was the biggest event we'd ever put on. We'd said for a long time, we're not an events company. Jeremy Minor said it was in the top 2 events he's ever done globally on my podcast recorded. And I know we can put on a show, but I kept on pushing it back. Like, same as I'm not a salesman, I'm not a business owner, I'm not an entrepreneur. We're not an events company. We are an events company, and next year we'll disrupt the industry and we'll put on the biggest sales event that Australasia's ever seen.
Wow.
And it will not be an 8-hour or 2-day pitch fest.
Yeah.
That's the key. There's a no pitch policy. If you want to speak on our events, you can, but there's no pitching from stage at all. We're very lucky that we don't need to necessarily monetize the events. I don't want to lose money. They cost a lot of money to put on.
Nice, yeah.
But because we've got the other side to the business where we generate revenue, we can actually just have a value-driven event. Like, we make money off the back of it anyway.
Yeah. Like,
it's a big marketing tool. So that excites me an awful lot. Right now, I'm really excited about Maverick's 10 weeks over Christmas and having time off. I gave my team an extra week off over Christmas.
Oh, wow.
So I came in last Monday or the Monday before after New Zealand.
Sure.
Sat around the boardroom, looked at the team. I don't know if you've ever had this where I'm like, these guys are done, eh? This has been it. Yeah, I just felt it. The team was
just flat.
Just drained.
Wow.
I pushed them.
Yeah.
With love, and
they love what they do from the event. I'm like, they're so in.
I like to think they do, but because of that, sometimes they do too much.
Very true.
We're a small team. We punch above our weight. And I'm like, you guys need a bit more time off. So we're going to finish next Friday the 13th.
Wow.
We're going to have 3 weeks off. So I'm going to get plenty of time with my boys.
That's
and
amazing.
yeah, looking forward to that.
What's the thing that you're running away from? You said that the gain is not that powerful in comparison to the thing that you're scared of, or the thing that like you need to change.
Oh, that's a good one.
Is there something that you're like, fuck, I got to do this?
It's so weird, right? So I'm not religious. I'm not spiritual, although I say I'm getting more spiritual in my old age.
I've noticed that.
But I don't really know what that means.
Yeah.
Have you? What do you mean?
I just feel like when I first met
happening.
you, there was like very little even like opening up to anything. Like I think I used to talk to you about like meditation. You're just
Cool,
and it was just like this blank part of the conversation. So don't go there.
Yeah.
And I feel like now I'm like listening to the way that you communicate. I'm like, there's definitely more of that. I don't know what that is yet.
Just getting old, man.
I'm seeing it. Yeah, I'm seeing it.
But even like the event that we put on, like I was very against fireworks and confetti, and just we're practical sales coaches. Let's just give them the content.
Were against all of that.
Yeah, I didn't want all the rah-rah. Like but because I've been to like the Tony Robbins and Lorna. It's Lorna's fault.
Oh, really?
Yeah, But what I realized, what I was doing was creating an event for people like me. So I was
practical people.
I was selling to people just like me. So we attracted people just like me, and they were great events, and they were very process driven, and the pen would be on the right hand side of the workbook, and everything was organized. But we wanted to appeal to all different personalities, and it's why it's a great bloody event. So I was going to say spiritual. Where was I going?
What are you running away from? That's
so yeah, I'm getting hang on. So yeah, I was talking about this to somebody the other day about I'm not very spiritual, but the closest feeling I've got to spirituality at the minute is that this feels like my calling, and I don't really know what that means. I feel like I have to do it. Like even with rolling the dice for this event, spending the money that I just spent, like that was we were either going under or we were going to put on the show that we did, and it was going to catapult us into another level after 10 years. Thankfully, it went down the second route. But like, it wasn't like, I didn't really question it. I remember speaking to Jenna, who was our events coordinator. She goes, I've ran so many events. You're amazing. You just say yes to everything. I'm like, do people say no to stuff? I just kept saying, I'm like, yeah, of course we're going to put that. Of course we're going to pay for that. Of course we're going to do that. Just the sharks don't want to hear this, but I just kept saying yes to everything because I felt like I have a responsibility now to put this on. Then you marry that with what happened in New Zealand a couple of weeks ago, even more. I don't even know where it comes from, Sasha. I feel like I have to. There's no question.
I feel like I can sense that as well, and I just want to recognize you for that as well, because I feel like it gives me so much more, almost like hope in a way, like thinking about like some of the challenges that you go through as an entrepreneur, and then also how fucking hard it is, you know, and seeing like you 10 years, however long it is now in the business, and I feel like listening to the way that you communicate through all the processes, the frameworks, like we've gone in this conversation and you're getting more and more and more passionate, more lit up. You're jumping around in that chair more and more. I'm like,
swinging around.
You know what I mean? I'm like, 10 years in and you're still like the first fucking day.
This is,
And the amount of energy and passion you have for this is like, gives me so much passion for what I'm doing. And I hope that anyone listening is like, whether you're at the bottom of the fucking bucket right now and you need to pick up, then this is it. Or if it's like you're at the top and you're worried, is it going to stop? Are you going to burn out? I'm like, I don't see the burnout. I see it just continues opening up into more and more and more.
I've got a light at the end of the tunnel though. Like, and what I mean by that is, I was on the verge of burnout, and I was burning out. As much as I can, I can perform through it, but that's not good. But if I go back to Necker Island, one pivotal moment with Sir Richard on a golf buggy, like him driving me back to my villa. And as I jumped off, he just said, Ryan, don't forget to be playful. I don't know what it was about hearing that from Sir Richard Branson. And I'm like, I had lost the playfulness within. I'm sarcastic Englishman, quick-witted. I like to have a joke around, but then I'm like, I've got to be a business owner. I've got to be professional all the time. Yeah. And then I'm with Sir Richard Branson. He's jumping in the first one in the pool at a casino night on Necker, like it fully clothed. Like he's lead the way. And I lost sight of that. And then there was something else that he asked about, like what gets the best results for your clients. And I think we'd lost sight of that a little bit as well. So we started giving people what they want, not what they need. Right. Which means we weren't being honest with ourselves. People want an in-person training session for 2 hours, and we do it and we jump. Right. And the bigger the company, the higher we jump. Now we're not. I come back from NECA, I remodeled the business, I sacked somebody, and I filed for divorce in like 10 days.
Wow.
And for the first time in my life at 42, I'm like, I've got the business I always wanted. We're getting great results for people, and I'm being honest with myself. I'm not biting my tongue anymore.
There's the spirituality piece coming out.
Is that what that is? It's happened, didn't it? So, yeah, and I'm probably gonna go and meditate straight after this. I don't know.
No, you're not.
So, but no, I appreciate you noticing that, because I do feel fueled right now. And as much as like I know the team need a break over Christmas, you know, like we don't stop. That's my creative thinking time.
Break is just you not having meetings or having calls and just being able to think.
Get more done with love to my team. When they're not there and clients are not emailing, then I'm going to get more done. They should be nervous for January the 6th, because there'll be more ideas.
Game on, dude. Thanks so much for what you do. It's honestly a pleasure. I appreciate you so much. And I think every business needs to integrate some form of what you do into what they do. More so from just like, I feel like it just helps so much to feel confident in the way that you communicate, and also like empower more people if you have a great product to sell more of it. Like it's just insane. So I appreciate you so much.
Cheers, man. Appreciate it. This is awesome.